Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
I got a 6-year-old in my calculus class in college, and it's going to take my job.
What is this nonsense? Comic Sans? Butler had never seen this film, and I got the indication that he hated it.
She's like, "You pussy, get back in the game!"
He rebels against maturity by taking a job at a movie theater. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's me. At a video store.
Well, this is now owned by Disney, so you're going to see a remake at some point.
Hey, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because the more popular movie was released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the film, or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy our podcast, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Find us. Our podcast is available on all platforms with a backlog of 175 episodes for your listening pleasure. We're probably at 200 now, aren't we?
I would imagine we're there by now. Yep.
I should probably change that. How you doing?
I'm doing swell.
Swell.
I've watched a movie much better than last week's movie.
I was going to say, if you didn't like this film this week, we were going to fight.
But I got to say, I'm in trouble, Field. I've been placing bets. I've been placing bets like crazy. And I owe $1,500 to the wrong people, who I'm also somewhat involved with. It's very terribly complicated. This is Miller's Crossing.
That's not the synopsis.
No. When the Italian mafia threatens to kill a crooked bookie, Irish mob boss Leo O'Bannon refuses to allow it, chiefly because he's dating the bookie's sister. Crafty gun moll Verna Birnbaum, Leo's right-hand man, Tom Reagan, is also seeing Verna on the sly, and when he's found out, is obliged to switch sides, going to work for the Italian mob amidst a dramatically escalating gang war over liquor distribution. That's an okay summary. It's not just liquor distribution, but okay.
Yeah, I mean,
the whole thing is also running the betting bets, but
there's some prohibition talk there. There's some prohibition jokes as well that are peppered in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This movie, which is a drama, has far more comedy than Night in the Life of Jimmy Reed.
Oh, jeez. All right, man. We're past that. We're past that one. That was last week.
We're lashing out.
You have to let it go.
No.
Miller's Crossing has a runtime of 115 minutes. It's rated R. Production budget is somewhere between 10 million and 14 million. It says 14 million on IMDb, but when there's a interview with either Joel or Ethan, they were like, they said they were well below 14. So that's where you get 10 to 14. Limited release date of Friday, September 21st, 1990. Its opening weekend, it was in one theater. It did $28,000. Domestic was $5 million, and then no international. Worldwide was $5 million. So it did not do well at the box office. And shame on all of you who didn't go.
That's surprising, considering that this is already after Raising Arizona.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's nothing like Raising Arizona.
It's not a comedy yet.
Right. Yeah, and it's really good, and people don't know what to do with it. Production company was Circle Films and 20th Century Fox, and it was distributed by 20th Century Fox as well. 21st of September went up against a wide release, Funny About Love and Narrow Margin. The week after, the 28th, you had Pacific Heights and Dark Angel in a wide release. Did you ever see Pacific Heights?
No, I know of, but I've never seen it.
That was like the movie where Michael Keaton was bad. He was the bad guy. And it was like the first time, at least in my experience of watching a film where Michael Keaton's the bad guy.
I mean, technically, he's the bad guy in Beetlejuice.
True, but he was funny in Beetlejuice.
That's true.
You also had a limited release that week, Texasville, which is, I believe, the sequel to The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and King of New York, which a lot of people like King of New York with Christopher Walken. Now, this is going to sound familiar, everyone, because the week before you had a movie that we just did a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, State of Grace, came out in a limited release on the 14th.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, I know. On a wide release, you had Death Warrant, Postcards from the Edge, and Hardware. And you also had Repossessed that same week at limited release. And if you remember when we talked about State of Grace, we said one of the reasons why we think it didn't do well, amongst other reasons, but one of the reasons was because on the 19th, you had Goodfellas that came out on a wide release on that Wednesday.
That's why Miller's Crossing died.
Maybe. That could be. Goodfellas probably ate up everything, but so there you go right there. That'll be, stay tuned for the why we think it's forgotten. This movie is obviously a Coen Brothers film. If you do not know who the Coen Brothers are, I really impress upon you to go back and watch their movies. They are quite simply fantastic. Listen, even their bad, even the ones that there's no bad ones, but even the ones that maybe you just don't like as much, they're still good films. Mm-hmm. I've never watched a Coen Brothers film where I've been like, that was just terrible. Never watched one that I didn't like. That was like that. So anyways, they have done Burn After Reading. That was an episode. That was a one we did with Andrew Morgan back in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You also did Blood Simple. Blood Simple is their first film. Their last film, it was The Tragedy of Macbeth. They also, Joel Coen has won an Oscar for Fargo. He was nominated for an Oscar for Oh Brother, We're Out There. This is for director. He's won 2 Oscars for No Country for Old Men and for director and writer. I forgot to write down their 4th Oscar, but they both have 4 Oscars. I just don't know where the 4th one comes from. Joel Coen and Ethan Coen have the writing credit on this movie. They've written Suburbicon. These are movies that they have not done in terms of directing. Suburbicon, Bridge of Spies, Unbroken, and Gambit. And they were also nominated for Oscars for writing for The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Bridge of Spies as well, True Crit, and A Serious Man. So all those films are, I can't say enough. Anyways, the cinematography was Barry Sonnenfeld. He might sound familiar. He is a director as well right now. He's on 3 O'Clock High, Big, and Misery. Misery was his last film that he was the director of photography for, cinematography for, before he went on to do directing stuff, directorial work. Right. Composer was Carter Burwell, who's nominated for 2 Oscars, one for 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, and Carol. He's also done The Founder, which is an episode we did, and the new movie that's out right now by Martin McDonagh, The Banshees of Inisherin.
Mm-hmm. I do want to see that really bad.
I know you do. Edited by Michael Miller, who's done DOA, an episode we did, Anaconda, and Raising Arizona. Produced by Ethan Coen as well, who's done obviously produced all the movies, but I wanted to get a movie that he produced that he didn't direct or write, and that was Bad Santa. That was the only one I could find. This film has Gabriel Byrne as Tom Regan. Reagan. He's in The Usual Suspects, Hereditary, and End of Days. Marcia Gay Harden as Verna. She won an Oscar for her role in Pollock. She also was nominated for an Oscar for her role in Mystic River. She's also in The Mist. Jon Turturro as Bernie Birnbaum. Barton Fink, The Lebowski, and I just was talking to Butler off camera about this, the TV show Severance.
Marcia Gay Harden was also in Meet Joe Black.
She was in Meet Joe Black,
which was season 4.
Nice job.
I think.
No, you're right. John Polito as Johnny Casper, who's in The Crow, The Tailor of Panama, an episode we did, Butler, and The Rocketeer. J.E. Freeman as Eddie Dane from Patriot Games, Alien Resurrection, and Wild at Heart. Albert Finney as Leo, the mob boss that Butler referred to. He's nominated for 5 Oscars. Tom Jones, The Dresser, Under the Volcano, Aaron Brockovich, and Murder on the Orient Express, the original Murder on the Orient Express. Mike Starr as Frankie. He's one of the tough guys, the guys that, which we'll talk about that scene when he gets punched and he runs out. He's in Ed Wood, Dumb and Dumber, and Jersey Girl. Al Mancini plays Tic Tac. Al Mancini was in The Dirty Dozen and Falling Down, and Steve Buscemi as Mink for a small role. I think this is Steve Buscemi's first film role. He's in Reservoir Dogs, Fargo, and Ghost World. Buscemi, I believe, got this part because he could say the lines fast.
Yeah, he spoke fast, so they hired him.
Michael Jeter's in this, and I couldn't find him. He plays Adolf. He must be somewhere where I probably just missed him.
Is he the twins?
I thought so, but I couldn't. They didn't hold on to them long enough for me to sit there and go, is that them? Michael, you had Michael Bartolucci in there as the butler, Casper's butler. He's in a bunch of stuff. You've probably seen him in Oh Brother, We're Out There as well. Sam Raimi. Did you see Sam Raimi in there, Butler?
Oh yeah, Sam Raimi has got it's a cameo, but it's more than just like a walkout.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's good.
He's in there. His role, his character title is Snickering Gunman.
This is probably a little bit after because Sam Raimi, Francis McDormand, and the Coen brothers, along with I think Bruce Campbell, all lived together through the 80s in like a giant house. Yeah,
Francis McDormand is married to Joel Coen at the time. Well, she still is, but she's in this as the mayor's secretary.
Oh, were they already married by now? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, there you have it. That's the cast. Now I already mentioned that I love this film, so we know where I stand. Butler, where do you stand?
This movie sucks.
Yeah, I know.
I'll kill you. This movie is great. I love the storyline. I love the redemption of this character, which then unredeems himself. I love that I love the plot twists that they have in the film. I love the way it's shot. I love the acting. I think this is probably now my favorite Albert Finney role I've ever seen. Like he's just awesome.
Is this your first time?
That I've seen Albert Finney?
No, this movie.
Oh, that's why I put this on the list.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen this or Blood Simple. This movie is phenomenal. This is probably, you talked about this in the last episode at the ending, like this would be your top 5 Coen brothers movies. I think this would definitely be on my top 5. Like there's almost nothing about this movie I don't like.
Well, at what point, because I'm curious, you're watching the film, it starts. At what point are you saying to yourself, I really, really like this movie? During what point in the movie?
I mean, I don't love the opening credit sequence, but I understand a movie of the early 90s needs a really boring opening credit sequence. It's really tough not to. You're
talking just because there was credits?
Yeah, but I've seen people do credits better, but I've also seen people do just as boring credits. So like, I get that they have to be there. So I didn't hold that against the film. I just hoped it wouldn't set the tone of the film. And it really didn't. That opening conversation kind of does. I think the first time I realized I loved the film was the very first time they broke up a speakeasy.
Okay.
As soon as it went, and it's just slapstick, stupid comedy going on behind a very dramatic, tense thriller. Just that it's thrown in there and they don't give 2 shits about it. It's just happening behind him. I was like, I love this.
And the cops talking, I don't know, we can't keep doing this.
I'm just a police chief. His line is just, I'm the police chief, Tom. I'm just a police chief. I don't know what's going on. And he says it like 3 times. I was like, this is awesome. I love these like throwaway comedic lines in this very serious movie. It's either that solidified this movie, and I think what stamped it as one of my favorite Coen brothers movies is Albert Finney just being a badass escaping out of his house.
That's a great scene.
That scene is friggin' awesome.
That's a great scene when the Butler's talking about how that they send guys to go kill him in his house, and he's in his room and he can hear him, and he can see the smoke coming up from because they kill one guy, strangle one guy downstairs, and a cigarette lights a fire, and as they're walking up the stairs, and Finney or Leo sees the smoke coming up from the wood, so he just calmly puts his cigar out, puts it back in his pocket, just gets under the bed. They come in, start ripping the place up. That's like one of the classic like when somebody's like, oh, give me like, if I was asked to do a Coen brothers montage, edit a montage of all their movies and like scenes from the films, like that's the scene where he's in the middle of the street with a Tommy gun, just fucking blasting away.
Oh, yep. Just walking calmly.
Just screaming. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. That's a great scene. He just slides out. Like we're watching it and because Jody's half asleep. And she's like, wow, Albert Finney can really move. I go, that's not him.
You don't know that. It's not him.
Slides down the
rooftop.
The rooftop, grabs out of the edge of the rooftop, drops down, gets ready for them to come out. Yeah, no,
wearing his pajamas and slippers the whole freaking time.
Yeah, no.
And when he takes out that first guy under the bed, he just gets him in the ankle, right in the head.
Yeah.
And they mentioned that a couple of times. The whole like gotta hit him in the brain.
Yeah. Johnny Casper's like, I always tell my boys, put one in the brain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. There's a lot of stuff in this film that I like. I love. I want to start asking people what's the rumpus now. Like every time someone comes in, what's the rumpus? Like
they're big on the 20 speak.
Oh yeah, no, I love all that. There's so many good moments in this film. There's so many great lines in this movie where it's a 2-hour film, but it never feels that. You're just engrossed in the film itself. You're engrossed in the story. All the characters are well-rounded. Even like the throwaway characters of like Frankie and Tic Tac, the 2 bullies. Like that whole idea of the one big guy when he goes to punch, he's supposed to beat up Tom, and Tom punches him and he runs away.
Tom doesn't punch him. He hits him with a chair.
Oh, right. But
Tom.
But he runs away and he's like, oh, why? Come on, Tom. And he runs away. And then Tic Tac comes in. He's much smaller and he's clearly more afraid of Tic Tac.
Yep. Smaller and older, and he still beats the crap out of him.
Yeah, I love that. I'm always going to sit here and I'm always going to champion the Coen brothers in terms of storytelling because I just think they're really, really good. They really get it. So there's very little for me to not like about this film. I don't know if you have any negatives on this film. We don't have to get negative. We can keep going positive. But give me something else that popped out that popped out for you.
Jon Polito has so much screen time, and I've always liked Jon Polito, and I'm glad he wasn't just like, when it started, I was like, all right, it's Casper wants the hit, but they're going to focus on Tom and Leo. We're not going to go back to Casper. And then Tom goes to work for Casper, or so you think. And you just get so much Jon Polito stuff, including him with his son, which is just hilarious. Scene. I love that.
You got to be firm.
I love pick a hand. pick another one. And he picks the same hand and he just goes, you got it. That's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, when he hits the kid, he goes, you got to be firm. And he's crying, and he cries for the rest of the scene together with them.
He just slaps, backhands him. You say him, you got to be like him.
He only talks when he needs to speak. There's just so many good lines. And like, hey, how easily swayed he is by Tom.
Yeah, like Tom really does a good job of like just sinking his hooks in there. And I really love because the way that Tom gets in with with Johnny is that he tells Leo that he's sleeping with Verna. Mm-hmm. And Leo asks him later, he's like, did you really mean to tell me that, or something like that? Or Verna asks him, I don't remember who, and he's just like, what does it matter at this point? And I always wonder, like, was that his intent, just to basically unburden his soul? Or did he figure, I need to go, if he's not going to take care of Johnny, I will. The only way I can get over there is he needs to beat the shit out of me in front of everybody. Yeah,
he even says to Leo, Leo says, did you mean to tell me? And he goes, I don't know, maybe I did. Mm-hmm. Or was that part of your plan? He goes, no, is that part of your plan? He goes, maybe it was. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I love that scene too, because Leo's finds out, gets that long stare, and you just get and he looks out the window of his office, which, by the way, looks exactly like the mob boss's office in 1989's Batman before Jack Nicholson kills him.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah,
it's like pretty much spot on. But like, he leaves that office and you see him walking, and Leo's got a ridiculous amount of people guarding him, almost a comedic amount of people guarding him. Mm-hmm. And then you see Leo start to walk down, remove his coat, roll up his sleeves. It's just like, oh, something's going to happen. And he punches him well. They're good punches. They're like stage punches. They're like classic Hollywood stage style punches, yeah, but they're great. Well, this movie is steeped in, like, it's only semi-realistic because the movie itself is steeped in that 1920s, those neo-noirs that came out after that time period. And it absolutely is the punches, the look of the sets, everything you need to see. Mm-hmm. And Jon Turturro as Bernie is awesome. I've always loved Jon Turturro. I think he's a fantastic actor. But his job as Bernie is like so duplicitous and so smart and yet so stupid at the same time. Yeah. He's so well written. Like he gets outplayed. He gets at the end, which is a great. The end is fantastic. But before I get to the ending, when they get Bernie and they take him out to Miller's Crossing to shoot him, and they want Tom to shoot him, not knowing what happens later on. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Tom's hesitation was because he never killed before, or because he had to kill Bernie? It's because Tom has never killed before. You think so? Yeah, that's what I got. The whole time he's always been the ear. I don't think he's ever been the hand. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's ever gotten his hands dirty because he's always been smart. That's because he wanted to kill Bernie. I don't think his plan was ever to let Bernie go, because Bernie alive or dead meant nothing to Tom, especially in the end. Like you said, knowing what I know his plan was never, Bernie was never his plan. But I even got that impression to begin with, because he's ready for them to kill Bernie, and then they hand him the gun. And you can see the look of, it's one of the few moments he's not cool and collected. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, me? Like, he's not the trigger man. You don't think there's a hesitation there because he loves Verna? No, because I don't think he does. Really? Even though he tells her? I don't think he can love. Mm-hmm. I think he loves Leo. Not in a romantic sense, but like this is obviously, he does all of this to protect Leo and set him back up. And you'd think maybe he's doing all of this to become the head of the city because he's smart enough to, but no, he gives it back to Leo because he's always been his number one. I think Tom is so ingrained in the life, he doesn't know how to love. That little heart he has that Verna talks about is with Leo, mm-hmm. like his loyalty. And the line that I'm talking about, obviously, is when the first time that Tom takes Bernie out to the Miller's Crossing to shoot him, the only time actually, Bernie's like quivering and screaming and crying, oh, look at you, look in your heart, and then he lets him go. And then at the end, when he turns the tables and he set the whole thing up where he told Johnny Casper that Bernie was going to be
at this place. We're going to, oh no, he said that Mink's going to be there. We're going to go get him.
Yep.
Bernie's there. Bernie shoots him. And then he kills Bernie because he's going to blame it on Johnny Casper. But like Bernie does the same thing, oh, look in your heart. He's like, what heart?
What heart?
Just shoots him, which is a great line. So I like that they come back around to that, because even Bernie says when he lets Bernie go and then Bernie comes back into his room and he's like, I figure I'm going to be a problem for you because nobody's supposed to see me. So you need to take care of me. And then Tom jumps down to try to catch him.
I love that scene.
Yeah. And
that's why Bernie's like not just a loser. He's more three-dimensional than that.
He's smart, but he's smart knowing that his tactic would be to whine, because he says, what do we do? Just give you a couple squirts and you'll let me go.
Yeah, I love that line. A couple squirts.
Yeah.
You gonna kill me? You can't kill me. I just give you a couple squirts and then you let me go.
Yeah. Yeah. So right from the start, the movie opens and what we get is this Godfather-like scene, this opening scene where Johnny Casper's telling Leo that he wants to kill Bernie because Bernie's been selling his tips. Yeah,
he's fixing bets, but Bernie's finding out about his fix. Or Bernie's always known about his fix and bets against his fix.
Right. He's making money off of him.
Yep.
So what I like about the scene is you immediately get the action that sets this whole movie in place. That sets it all to start. And I think it's so simple, but you get Casper saying, I want to kill this guy. Leo saying, no. There's the beginning of, the conflict that's going to happen throughout this movie.
Not even that. You also get Tom saying, I don't think that's a good idea.
Right. You get Tom disagrees and you get all that. But then there's, they start building off of that, but you get it immediately. And it's like, it's so simple. And yet so many storytellers don't do that. They don't. I don't know what it is. Maybe the story doesn't line up that way, but they don't set it up. And it baffles me when I watch
They take too long to get to the setup.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. This movie does it so well that I had to pause the movie to make sure I didn't accidentally skip ahead. I was like, am I in the middle of a conversation? No, we're just finding out everything at the beginning. All right, I'm good with that.
Yeah. And I know it's been referenced that it's like Godfather, and Godfather does the same thing, but Godfather's there to set up who Don Corleone is.
Yeah, it's not the storyline for the film.
Right. It sets up the character of him and the type of person he's like. This one's just like, here we go. Here's the movie. This is where we're going to go and start. And then you just go from there, which I think it's just like, again, it's just so simple, yet I feel like I need to keep bringing it up because it's just so well done and it's never done enough, like you said.
I also like that the film itself, the story that they tell is kind of an Irish mob boss against an Italian mob boss, but it's not done in a way that's the way it's overdone, where it's just all about somebody being an Irish and somebody being Italian. It's not done in a racial kind of like stereotype way. It just happens to be there's an Irish mob boss and an Italian mob boss.
There's two warring factions kind of thing. Yeah.
So I liked that about it. I know we talked about like we did State of Grace a couple of weeks ago, where that was kind of one of the main themes of the film. Or the through lines. But in this, it's like they kind of were harmonious until they weren't.
Right. And, and just to kind of reference State of Grace, I know when we talked about the movie, I told you there's still stuff that I enjoyed in that film, but if you're like going to have me compare this film to that film, there's no way. There's no comparison. Miller's Crossing is phenomenal, is just extremely well written and well directed and well put together. Whereas, I can't sit here and tell you any kind of problem I have with this film. State of Grace, yes, obviously there are some issues that I had. This film is just, I hesitate to say they're perfect, but it's really good. It's really, really close. Really close. Go ahead.
I like the character of Verna. I was going to bring up that they do strong female characters very well. Obviously Fargo. But in this, Verna's not written. She is still kind of like what's the name for him? Like the dame in noir films. There's like a
damsel in distress.
No, where they kind of screw you over just because of who they are. Kind of the opposite of the damsel in distress. Yeah, she's kind of the femme fatale in that her relationship with both Leo and Tom kind of screws over Tom. But she's not a femme fatale. But she's also not like a damsel in distress. She's strong.
She's playing her own angle.
Yeah, she is. She can give as good as she takes. I love the scene when he walks into the powder room, tells all the ladies to get out. And then she slaps him first and slugs him so hard he goes flying back. Then he throws like a shot glass and then she throws something back at him. It's like she's never, until obviously Eddie holds her hostage. for a brief moment, but she gets away. She's never presented as weak or not strong-willed or easily manipulated. She's a very strong female character, even though she might not know exactly what's going on and what angle Tom's playing.
Well, she gets played though by Tom because she thinks that Tom's going to protect Bernie. And at the last time you kind of see her, she kisses him on the cheek because, she
thinks he's keeping him alive. Yeah.
Right. And then obviously the next time we see her, she hates him because Bernie's dead. But still, she's part of the game. She's playing her own angle. She just lost what she was trying to do, which is protect her brother. But her brother is somebody that is irredeemable. He's, he needed to go.
Yeah. Which is
what
what Tom sees from the get-go. It's like Leo doesn't want to kill Bernie because of Verna, but Tom realizes it needs to happen.
Right.
Because otherwise it's going to be a war. And honestly, like Leo ends up on top because Casper dies, but Leo loses almost all of his speakeasies according to what Casper says.
He also loses Tom
at
the end of the film. Obviously we talk about, what do you think about the ending, the final shot of the film where Leo leaves. He tells Leo, we're not coming back to work. Yeah.
Not
coming back. Tom puts his hat on and he kind of stares at Leo walking away and the camera kind of zooms in or dollies in. And then you see Tom's trying to hold back tears. What do you think about that ending?
Is he trying to hold back tears?
Well, I didn't
get why he was lowering the hat. I was I quite get that.
I was having this conversation with Adrian, who I've mentioned quite frequently on the show. I was asking him, I go, what did you think about this? Do you remember the ending? And we were trying to talk about that because I felt like he was hiding himself underneath the hat to hide his emotion. He's basically telling Leo, I can't be with, we can't be together anymore. But I think that hurts Tom. I think that pains him. You talk about how he loves Leo.
Yeah.
And I think he's trying to hide that emotion from Leo, which is why he's putting his hat down.
But at the same time, Leo's so far away from Tom. I think that's what confused me. And Leo doesn't look back. If Leo maybe looked back,
maybe.
I mean, he does lower it in kind of like a noir kind of way. So that's what I thought they were getting at.
Yeah.
But I was a little confused about that. But it does make sense. If he's holding back tears, then I like that. I'm no longer confused. I like that because
we'll go back to that because you can see his eyes are bloodshot.
I'll have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he does love Leo and he protected Leo, but he can't keep covering for a mob boss that, although he's still badass, is weakening. He's becoming a big softy. And Verna, they're getting married. She is going to have a voice in his ear, and it's not a good one.
I think Tom realizes, what's going to happen, what's going to come. It's not, if he stays around, he's just going to get himself in trouble. He's just
going to have to keep fixing issues like this. He
squared his bets up. Yeah. All that. He
doesn't square his bets off unless he wins that next bet he just placed. Yeah.
But I wonder, is he going to stay in town? Is he leaving? Is he I always wondered what happens to Tom after the credits roll. Where is he going? What's his life like now?
I wouldn't mind a Miller's Crossing sequel where he is the Leo.
Yeah. They'll never do it, but yeah.
Just to see where he's at.
Maybe.
But he probably got cirrhosis of the liver. I mean, this guy drinks so much.
They all drink and smoke. All of them. Big thing.
Oh my God. They drink so much. The other thing in movies, this movie has it too, and I'm starting to get sick of it, is the constant drinking straight whiskey or vodka and not having that burned throat. Just being all right.
I don't know.
No one does that. I don't care how long you've been drinking.
I don't know the history of alcohol, so I don't know this, but I also don't know alcohol back then compared to alcohol now. And if there's a difference, if it was watered down a lot, stuff like that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
The prohibition stuff is, but I know Tom's got the real stuff, but I know he talks about how the club has, is basically paint thinner.
Mm-hmm.
Because the club definitely has prohibition alcohol where Tom has probably legit smuggled imported stuff, probably in Leo's office as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe.
But obviously the mayor's just going to let him have whatever he wants because the mayor's in both Leo and then Casper's pot. The mayor and the chief can't wait for one of them to be the leaders. They're so useless on their own. Well, but I love the scene with the mayor and Casper.
Oh, when he's yelling at him.
Tom walks in. When Leo was here, I don't remember any kind of bullshit you had to pull. You put him in whatever role he told you. I don't remember ever having to pull any strings for anybody. Get out of the office. This is my office. Get out of the office.
Tom, tell him how it's done. Tom, Did you see?
I'm just the police chief, Tom.
Did you see that the Dane was actually supposed to be the Swede Peter Stormare was going to be in this movie.
I did, and I was a little. I mean, I like J.E. Freeman in the role, but I love Peter Stormare, so I would have loved for it to be the Swede.
Yeah, he was doing Hamlet on Broadway, so he couldn't do the movie, but they rewrote it and made it the Dane. I love the scene with the Dane when he's holding Verna hostage, or not holding hostage. He goes to talk to her, and then those two guys show up.
Yeah, he's using more like armor, not so much a hostage.
Right. So and then when he's talking to, he calls him a yeg, but a yeg is not his name. It's like a term for it's a term that's used for safecracker, but it's sometimes used for general criminals and cops and old cops and robbers movies. So you hear it a couple of times. They call people yegs. I
saw that. And I didn't know what it meant until I looked up the notes as well. I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was maybe a derogatory term for somebody.
Right. So, but the scene when he is holding the gun on the guy and getting the information, and the guy tells him, and then he shoots him. Before he shoots him, when he cocks the gun, I love the sound effect of the gun, the old style gun. You know, the hammer being cocked back. Yeah. It was, I don't know what it was. I don't know if they, maybe the sound guy had a good day that day, but the Foley artist did well, but it was just such a great sound effect. I was like, ooh, and then he blows him away.
I love that he shoots through the second guy kind of gets away through the against the wall on the other side.
Right.
And he shoots through the door in the wall, and then you just wait a moment and the guy flops down dead. I thought that was good. I was like, the wall didn't protect you.
And then the Dane gets it in the face.
Poor Dane just kind of knew it all along, was almost just as smart as Tom. Kept getting, at every turn, he just kept getting proved wrong.
Well, that goes to show you, like, the bosses are both bosses are the bosses, but they're the bosses because of the right-hand men. And when you don't listen to the right-hand man, then what's going to happen?
Yeah, when you start hearing other voices, you get confused.
Yeah.
But man, the Dane gets the hot shovel in the face, and then the bullet in the brain,
and then the boxer that he beat up to get the information is just screaming.
Quiet, and he just shuts up right away.
Yeah. Now, did you see that Leo was actually the Albert Finney character was actually going to be played by Trey Wilson, the guy who was Nathan Arizona's senior in Raising Arizona?
I did see that, and he had to get replaced because he passed away.
He had a brain hemorrhage before production began and passed away. He was like 41, and he died. And I'm sitting there going, that always depresses me, because number one, I'm 47, and I'm just like, but
brain hemorrhages can happen to anybody at any time.
I know
it's the scariest thing.
What I was thinking about with Trey Wilson was that I don't know if he would have been good for this role. I was thinking
the same thing, and it's because Albert Finney's so good.
It's Albert Finney just took the role. Like, it's his role.
And last minute, wasn't like the week before shooting or something like that? I can't remember
something like that. And they weren't gonna, Gabriel Byrne, he wasn't gonna have an Irish accent, and he told the Coen brothers, listen, I think that a lot of the dialogue that I'm saying is gonna flow. It's gonna flow better with the accent. And he did it for them, and they were like, yeah, I agree.
It does do better with that affected accent for sure.
And then when Albert Finney shows up, Albert Finney just does his accent, does an Irish accent for the movie.
I felt like his was a little affected as well, but yeah.
No, he does. But what I'm saying is that Albert Finney did such a good job with this role that I don't know if I could picture anybody else doing that. So when I saw that note about Trey Wilson was their first choice, I'm just like, I don't know what that character of Leo would have been like.
I only know the guy from Raising Arizona, really. So I'd have to see other things he'd been in.
That's pretty much how he is, that kind of Southern accent. Have you ever see, what's he in? Was he in, I think I'm confusing him with somebody else. He wasn't in Northern Exposure, was he?
I don't think so. I haven't watched any Northern Exposure in a long time, but maybe.
Anyways, he's if everyone out there doesn't know what we're talking about, Trey Wilson's the one that's talking about. He's got when in Arizona, Raising Arizona, when they're looking for his son, they're like, can you describe what your son was? This guy pajamas on, like Yoda's and shit, like that guy. That's the guy.
Yeah, I found their accent in this film really well done. I really liked that Irish gangster accent, but they weren't using their full accent because it did seem like they had been in the States for a while. I thought that was really, really good. And again, their use of the slang was just so natural. And that could just be because their accent really made it flow.
Yeah. This is the first, when I watched this movie back in, I think I watched this on video So you're probably talking like early 90s. I probably watched I might have watched it either before or after Fargo. Because I want to say Fargo was the first time that I was exposed to the Coen brothers. Oh, not in a bad way, everyone. So, and then I went back and watched some of their older stuff. But I just remember like, because this is the first time I saw Gabriel Byrne in something. And I was just like, wow, he's so good. Like, I just remember loving this film and loving everybody in this film and just like going out and seeking their other roles and other stuff they were in. There's some point in my young film writing, filmmaking, film loving, storytelling life where I was watching movies for who was in them. And then at some point I started watching movies for who did them, who wrote them, who directed them. And this was around that time with the Coen brothers. But I just remember loving everything about this movie back then. I just sought out everybody who was in it and everybody who was behind the scene on that. So I don't know where I was going with that, but that's basically what I said.
My first Gabriel Byrne movie was End of Days. Not a good way to introduce yourself.
No, not at all. Because I remember watching that. I was just like, come on.
It was okay. It was more interesting for Arnold to be in it than it was for being a movie.
Right.
It was kind of a ruined concept.
What did you think of the theme, the score?
I was hit or miss on the score.
Okay.
The main theme I do not like at all because I do not think it fits the film.
Really?
I think it fits that outside forest theme. I think it fits like a child growing up in the South or in the suburbs kind of a thing and coming back to it. Like that's what what that evokes, that theme. Mm-hmm. So I did not like the theme, but when the movie was going, I did like the theme. I did like the score, but I think I don't like the main theme of the movie, which is kind of vice versa to a lot of the times when I have trouble with the score, or I'm not a huge fan of the score. Mm-hmm. The theme is great, but the rest of the movie is not great. And this time it's the other way around. I just don't think it fit with the movie. Not that it was bad. I just didn't think it fit with what the movie was.
I mean, I politely disagree. I liked it a lot and I think it fits and it works. And it kicks in at times when, it kicks in at times, not whimsically, but when something's happening that you're like, it's almost kind of like a reveal. Like something like the story, like it kicks in when you're learning stuff in the story. You're learning about the characters or motivations or what has happened. Like, like if Tom has done something, Tom has seen his way through this conflict. Mm-hmm. It kicks in at that point. It's actually based on an Irish folk ballad called "Lament for Limerick." If you're interested,
I did see that. So, I mean, in that case, it kind of made sense.
It's used in the Shawshank Redemption trailer a little bit.
I thought it sounded familiar. I was going to write down this has been used in trailers, but I can't say what. I actually have that note. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense. Maybe that's where I've heard it before. Or just if it's based on something, maybe I've heard the original thing.
Right.
I do like that "Oh Danny Boy" plays over the whole Leo scene with the Tommy gun.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, that's the song you have to play there.
Absolutely. That's like the Italian version of like Pagliato or whatever.
Oh, right. right.
So I thought that was good. I also really like Mink, Steve Buscemi's first role. I love how fast he talks.
I love every time you hear him on the phone. He's like, "What?" When he's like, I told him, you told me. What did you do that for? Like you just hear him.
Oh yeah, now they're getting one of my favorite lines in the movie is just, "Jesus, Tommy, fuck, damn it, Jesus." As he's walking up the stairs, I was like, that's awesome. I didn't think he got it. I was really hoping to see more Steve Buscemi in this role, but it's his first one, so.
I mean,
I get he's just kind of like in there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just the beginning of a big time career.
Yep.
What are some of the lines you liked in this film?
I just said one. Jesus, fuck, Tommy.
Okay, well, I got one. Then I love Tom's line when he's like, "Nobody knows anybody not that well." I think that's such a good line. That's such a solid line.
I love that he brings that back around as well.
Yep.
I like if we're talking the 1920 speak. I love. So take your flunky and dangle.
I love when Eddie Dane looks to him and he's like, "How'd you get that fat lip?" And he's like, and Tom's like, "Old war wound, X up around morons."
I really like when Bernie's trying to threaten Tom. Mm-hmm. And then Tom says his little like Snyder remarks like he always does. And Bernie just goes, "Don't do that, Tom. Don't do that to me. I want to see you sweat a little. And when you smart me, it ruins it." I was like, that's a good line. He's like really getting the upper hand. And then I also like his line as you're walking out. If Casper ain't stiff in a couple days, I start eating in restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
It's like such a stupid line, but it's such a big deal because if he reveals himself, that just simply eating in a restaurant is going to get Tom killed.
Right. And the movie kicks off with they have the big meeting. So the meeting happens before the credit sequence. And then before the credit sequence kicks, you hear, Johnny tells Leo, what he wants. Leo says no. Johnny leaves. And then Tom argues with Leo. As Tom's walking out, he's like, think about what protecting Bernie gets us. Think about what offending Casper loses us. And Leo's, oh, come on, Tommy. I don't like to think. And Tom's like, yeah. Well, think about whether you should start. It's just like that. Too, yeah. But like that whole series of dialogue is just like, oh, that's so well written. So that's the thing, though. Like, I could go through these Coen Brothers films and just pick out all these like these simple scenes, these simple lines of dialogue that just fit so well. And they're just because
their dialogue is a puzzle piece to put together the scene. They don't talk. It's not even realistic the way they speak, but it works so well within film because it's just so. It's like iambic pentameter with the way Shakespeare does it. It's not quite realistic, but it's so easy. And that's why he wrote like that. And that's why the Coen brothers write like that. It's one conversation between two people, but it feels like one single thought almost.
So who would you recommend this film to?
Anybody who's going to learn filmmaking. That's an absolute must. This is now one of my top Coen Brothers movies. Like, this is like, you have to watch this movie.
If somebody came up to me and said, hey, I want to make movies, I'd be like, well, go watch the Coen Brothers, go start at Blood Simple and watch every single Coen Brothers film. Every single one. And I wouldn't be joking. I'd be like, no, I'm legit being serious.
They also do so much. It's like, I always talk about certain directors or certain writers that like only do one genre. It's like the Coen Brothers do everything. And they're really good at it, like everything.
Yeah, they're really good storytellers. They're great storytellers.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of No Country for Old Men, but some of the characters in there that they write is just phenomenal. Tommy Lee Jones's character, Javier Bardem's villain, is one of the most iconic villains, and he barely says much. And it's just all due to their writing, the way they have things filmed, the calmness in even the tensest scenes. It's just, it's so good.
Their stories are also stories that are driven by characters. Like, stories are about characters and the decisions they make. Not all characters make the right decisions.
That's true. Yep.
They're a prime example of their stories are, because you bring up a Brother Where Art Thou, like a lot of that story is Josh Brolin's idiocy.
Yeah. Taking that money. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Cause people are like, oh, why would you do that? It's like, because that's his character. And now this is what happens. But characters always drive story, and they are a perfect example of when they write and what happens in their stories is specifically because what are the characters' choices are. And that's just great writing. So you would recommend this to anybody who wanted to love storytelling, wanted to make movies. You wouldn't recommend this to just anybody.
Oh, no, that's first and foremost who I would recommend this to.
Right.
I would also recommend this to anyone who loves a good crime movie because I think it's criminally underrated. Like, I think I had heard about it maybe in film school. I was never shown it. Obviously, the Coen brothers, other films I had watched in film school. But they did not teach Miller's Crossing, but I really think they should. It's just, I think anybody who loves a good crime film, this is so well done. It's so underseen, I think. The acting's phenomenal. It's a story that's very interesting. It's all about kind of the consigliere character, which I also don't think is done very often. Usually it's about the mob bosses or maybe they're in lower level guys. It's usually not about the right-hand man. It's so well done in a 1920s time period that honors it so much, but doesn't go over the top like, Dick Tracy or The Shadow, but also doesn't underplay it in a way where it's just like, why set this in the 20s if you're just going to talk like normal? I think it's just so well done that I think anybody who likes crime movies as well, there's just so much to like about this film.
So why are we saying it's forgotten then, if it's such a great film?
Goodfellas. I think especially like State of Grace, yes, as well, was destroyed by Goodfellas, but I think this one is like, I can't see anybody going into, like you said, Raising Arizona was a comedy, but Martin Scorsese is known for his dramas already by this point. So if you're going to go find a crime film, if that's what you're into that weekend that you're going to the theater, you're watching Goodfellas, and the reviews for Goodfellas are only going to keep catapulting it Into the Sky. And unfortunately, it kind of buried this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, of the Coen Brothers films, I think this is a forgotten film in their pantheon of films, because Fargo is amazing and Fargo is, rightfully so celebrated. But they've done other things. Like Brother Art is a great film. They're all great, and I keep saying it. I'm not going to keep saying it again. But I think this is, of their films, I think it's forgotten. And because when you go back and look at, because usually I'll go through, I'll go through reviews. Mm-hmm. I'll try to find reviews to piss you off. So because I figured you'd like this film. I hoped you did. But I go back to try to find bad review. There isn't any. They're all lauding how great this film is. And it's just baffling that not enough people talk about it. There's certain people I can talk, I can now talk with you about Miller's Crossing, but I talk with my buddy Adrian all the time about Miller's Crossing. We're always talking about this film. We that's the thing. It's one of those films. When you watch it, you're just you just want to talk about it, and you just want to kind of replay what you just saw and what you just heard. It's such a great film, and I would recommend it to anybody. And if somebody said they didn't like it, I'd be like, you got to tell me why they didn't like it. Because not that I would convince them otherwise, but it's just such a solid film that it deserves to be praised, and it deserves to be put up there with a lot of other films of theirs, and any film. And I even love the fact that they turned down Batman because it would have interfered with this movie. They were offered
I read
Batman.
that, and I was so curious. I was what would a Coen Brothers Batman movie?
See, I don't want that. I don't want them doing any kind of. I want them to do their movies. Don't just their movies. Do your movies.
But you don't know what kind of Batman. Were they just offering them the Batman that was already written, or were they saying take Batman and do what you want with Batman?
It probably would have been like Christopher Nolan doing Dark Knight. It probably would have been something like that, a more serious Batman. I don't know.
It might have had some comedy in there.
Maybe, but not their comedy is very dry.
That's what I love about I love those scenes where they're breaking down the stupid speakeasies.
Well, look at Raising Arizona. Raising Arizona was hilarious.
Oh yeah, that's a straight up just stupid comedy. But yeah,
just freeze, everyone get down. Which is it, young fella? You want, if I freeze, I can't likely get down, and if I get down, I'm in motion.
Yes. Raising Arizona and Burn After Reading are definitely, and The Lady Killers are just stupid comedies.
I know. People give The Lady Killers shit all the time because they don't like Tom Hanks, and it's he can do other things besides the other stuff he does before. Yeah, but also go watch the original. The Lady Killers is a remake. Go watch the original. Shit, go watch True Grit. They remade True Grit, and everyone loves True Grit, and their True Grit is amazing.
Oh, the remake of True Grit is phenomenal.
Yeah. Anyways,
I love that you mentioned that you were talking about this movie with Adrian. I love the note about Barry Sonnenfeld. Really this was one of his favorite movies to do. And his note about why is because it was so easy.
Yeah.
But the cinematography is great. And yet he's it was really easy.
Well, that's the thing too. They they know what they want. The Coen Brothers, they storyboard everything. They shot list everything. They know what they want. Everything, even cuts to people walking, their feet. They know that. So, there's not much cause for, and that's not to say people can't, actor goes on set and changes the line. They're not going to punch him in the face. But right. It's a lot of times you have directors who will come on set and they have no idea what they want to shoot. And sometimes it works for directors. Some directors who are super talented, it works for them. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you have directors that don't know what they want because they're not confident. And when they get on set, they waste time trying to find the shot on set. And that's where you run into trouble. But they know what they want. And they know and I'm sure they have constant conversations with Sonnenfeld. Sonnenfeld also likes this film because he married his wife at the wrap party.
I saw the wrap party was the marriage, yeah.
So that's another, but yeah, no, he's it's a near perfect film, and it's so good, and I love it. I love it to pieces, and I hope if you have never seen this film, I hope you find it and you watch it. And I'd love to hear what people thought about this movie, because it's not one of the Coen Brothers films that's always talked about.
Absolutely. That's why this and Blood. I still haven't seen Blood Simple either. But those two movies are the ones that you keep talking about how good they are. And I'm those are two. I had heard of Miller's Crossing. I'd never even heard of Blood Simple.
Oh yeah, Blood Simple is their first one. Blood Simple.
I gotta check these out.
You talk. Blood Simple is the one where they did the. They're the ones that put the two pieces of wood together and put the camera in the middle, kind of like Sam Raimi, like when they do that whole thing. That's from Blood Simple. So yeah, that's where that comes from. And I think
they do that once in this film as well.
Yeah. So that I'm pretty sure they're the originators of that shot.
Okay.
So but yeah, you should definitely check out Blood Simple. I think there's actually a Criterion Blu-ray of Blood Simple that just came out, or a new version or something like that, up-resed or what have you. But anyways.
I was almost positive Prime Video had all these movies as part of the Coen Brothers collection, like a playlist. And then they took it away. So maybe it's because Criterion bought it.
Maybe.
Yeah. They were all streaming at one point on one collected place.
I'd have to check and see if they have. I mean, usually I see the ads for the Criterion's new grouping and collection. They actually have an ad for them, but I'll check them out. Maybe they're on
Spine.
there. Yeah, exactly. All right. Where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com, as we are part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. While you're there, check out all the other great podcasts and video content we got for you guys. There's other people doing stuff on Forgotten Entertainment that you should check out. It's really good. And wherever you're listening to us, why don't you hit a like, a subscribe button, a rating, all that good stuff helps the podcast. And that's what I got.
Next week, This was episode 13 of season 15. So season 15 is over. And next week is the beginning of the end. So if you haven't heard already, we are wrapping up the show. The show is ending. We don't like each other anymore.
He's the Paul to my John.
Who's Yoko? So anyways, yeah. So season 16,
Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon is Yoko.
Folks. So season 16 is our last season. We're going to do 13 episodes, 13 final films, and then we'll do one more bonus episode where we'll just kind of reflect on the 4 years. It'll be right at 4 years where episode 13 of season 16.
We'll be sloppy, drunk, and crying.
Oh, we should drink. I didn't even think of that. So, but we're starting off next week with a movie from 1995 that I always talk about and Butler's never seen. It's called Living in Oblivion. It's about independent filmmaking in New York City, and I love it. And that stars Steve Buscemi. It's in the 90s though, so we probably never can find this film anywhere. So that'll be fun to look for. But that is next week to kick off our final season, Living in Oblivion. Until then, dry those tears, Mike. Until then, everyone have a great week. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.